Time now for a look at the day's international newspapers. For that, we're joined by Alison Sargent. Alison, I'm going to start in the United States. Lots of reactions there to the death of Daunte Wright, a black man killed by the police.
Yeah, the Washington Post is asking the question that many people might have asked themselves when they first heard about this. Has nothing been learned from George Floyd's death? Why does this keep happening? Now, part of the answer, according to the paper, is that police have been trained to think that they have to win at any cost. Why else would they have done everything they could to stop Daunte Wright from leaving the scene, even though he didn't seem to pose an immediate threat? And the Washington Post writes, surely he could have just been found at another time. Then there's the mistaking the gun for a taser, a mix-up that seems incomprehensible to the Washington Post. According to the New York Times, such cases are rare, but they do happen. And as often as once a year, according to some of the statistics cited in this article, one law enforcement expert said that the confusion usually happens when both the taser and the gun are being kept on the same side by a police officer, and it's usually the side where their dominant hand is. Most police departments, because of that, require officers to keep their tasers on their non-dominant side, separate from their guns. They're also usually marked with bright colors and have different hand grips, so you wouldn't confuse them when you touch them. But confusion is always possible, and the law enforcement expert cited by the paper said, this is not the first time, and it's not going to be the last.
Gosh, let's move back here to France, Alison, for the next story. A growing rivalry being looked at by Libération newspaper between the president and the Paris mayor.
That's right. Hidalgo, Macron, why they hate each other. That's the front page headline from Libération today. As president and mayor of the capital, the two are unable to avoid each other, but the tension is palpable, according to Libération. The paper writes that they dream of facing off in the second round of the 2022 election, and the paper goes back and explains the origin of their dislike for each other. They first butted heads when Macron was the economy minister back in 2015 and supported a law allowing some stores in Paris to stay open on Sundays. Anne Hidalgo was opposed to that law, and Emmanuel Macron ultimately won out. She sort of got her revenge, though, when Macron was elected, and she would not let him use the Champ de Mars in front of the Eiffel Tower to celebrate. Instead, he had to have his victory rally, as some of us might remember those pictures, at the Louvre Museum, which is privately managed. Libération writes that now that they might face each other in 2022, Macron is treating the Green Party, not Anne Hidalgo, who is a socialist, as his main adversary, which is sort of yet another snub to her, and also a sign that Macron could actually be quite worried.
Well, from the mayor of Paris making the headlines to the mayor of Rome, also in the news, this after she mistook an ancient arena in France for the Roman Colosseum.
That's right. Now, in her defense, Eve, I think they look somewhat similar, at least to my American eyes. I'll let some of you, I guess, see somewhat for yourself. This photo we can look at from the Courrier International. Which one do you think that is, Eve? A little test.
I would have said that was Nîmes.
Yeah, and you would be correct. That is Nîmes. As the Courrier International explains, images of the Arène de Nîmes were used in a promotional clip for the Ryder Cup, which is a golf tournament that's going to be held in Rome in 2023. Rome Mayor Virginia Raggi is from the Five Star Movement, and political rivals were quick to ridicule her for this mistake. Papers were too. La Repubblica called it a spectacular error, and Il Giornale called it a shocking gaffe. And I have to say, I might have confused them, but I'm not the mayor of Rome. You think you would know your own city?
You would also think that there was somebody that would validate that video.
Yeah, the whole communications team,
yes,
not one person.
It's not just one. Finally, you have a question, Alison, that you want to put to our viewers. Would you like to adopt a dog that was described as a neurotic, man-hating, children-hating gremlin? My response would be no, Alison.
Mine would probably be no as well, but for a surprising number of people, the answer to this question was yes. We read in USA Today that requests to adopt this chihuahua named Prancer have been pouring in after a brutally honest Facebook post about him went viral. It was written by the woman who's fostering him in New Jersey, and it's quite a read, Eve. She describes him as, quote, a haunted Victorian child in the body of a small dog that hates men and children. She also lists his good qualities, though. He does have them. He likes car rides, he's housebroken, and he's cute, I guess, if you're into small dogs and chihuahuas. I'm not so into them, so I think I'd have to pass on this one, which is good because there is a lot of competition. I think people seem to really relate to the man-hating side of this dog.
People hate. It's just like if you don't want to interact with anybody.
Yeah, people relate to this bitter, angry dog.
Okay. Alison Sargent, thanks a lot for that look at the international papers.